Okay. So I tried to type their name into Google to see how to pronounce it right, but I couldn't, like, Google didn't have it. So it's like Cracinator? Cracinator? Cracinator. I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. So forgiveness if I mispronounced your name. I don't know if I've told y'all about this. I have like the worst time sounding things out. I don't know what anything sounds like, and I just memorized what all the words are. So, forgiveness. They are the creator of Wolf's Fable. Super excited for us to read it. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Their icon is really cute. They seem to be really fun. So what's cool about this too, just a little bit of background story. They are a brother-sister duo. I thought that was so much fun. Like, having a sibling you can work on your comic with, someone who like lives in the house with you that you can like annoy with your comic. Like that just seems like such a fun thing. Yes, like procrastination. I don't know what you're referring to, Thea. Yeah, so if we want to go on a little side tangent about this, like Poe talks about it all the time, how like he just is dumbfounded by the fact that I wasn't taught to sound things out when I was little. And I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe somebody did teach me and I just didn't care to learn. And so like I faked it by memorizing the words so that I didn't have to learn. So I don't know. That's a little bit of a Apollo story. So one day I'm gonna sit down and figure out what all the letters sound like. All right, let's look at oh oh like their name. Okay, maybe I don't know. That's kind of funny. No. That's super funny. I totally get it now. I love it. Okay, let's look at the summary and then we'll get into the story. Dogs. They naturally man's best friend, right? Wolf's Fable starts before the bonds of man and beast, with quests for revenge, friendship, and hiccups on the way. Please leave a comment on what you think about our story. Hopefully, you see us grow in our storytelling and art. Alright, so for this one, I want to go ahead and tell y'all that their target audience is also anyone. And so they selected that they just want to they want to pull in anybody they can, young or old. So I refer back to my earlier speech about knowing your target market, but it's also fine. I'm going to add this to it. It's also fine to want to reach a mass market, but even with mass markets, there's specific targets within those mass markets. So I would just say do a little bit of research and figure out what you want to do. Let's look at chapter 1. I'll start out with things that I really enjoyed. The super cool parts of the story that were amazing. So it just could not be ignored, and I know this isn't necessarily a writing thing, but the wolf's expressions, like, they were so good. Like I don't even know how to express how much I enjoyed reading the story just to see how the wolf would respond, and I love that his expressions were really unique to himself. Like we met another wolf during this reading, and although, you know, he was expressive in his own way and everything, it did not compare to the level and the care that the wolf had. And I just thought that was so amazing. It really makes him pop on the page. It makes him stand out. And it kind of makes people a little sympathetic towards him, even though he's kind of like a villain. Next, I love me a clear plot. If you were here for the other the other critique, I talked about how I really like a plot up front and getting like a clear direction for where the plot was going. I really enjoyed that, and I liked how it was weaved into the narrative of the story. So it was almost like, because if you were binge reading this like I did the first time, you kind of have to sit back and think, wait, what was the plot? What are we doing? And like then you're kind of like, oh yeah, it's super clear. Grandmother has died, and now, we're trying to avenge grandmother, and we're following this wolf to, lead us to another lead or something like that. I thought that was amazing. Now, transparent goals. I think it's super important not only for the plot to be clear in the beginning to the audience, but for the goals of the characters to be clear. So clearly, we see our two main characters, which I'm going to assume are the wolf and the little girl, Amber. Amber definitely wants to avenge her grandmother. The wolf is looking for a meal, like he's hungry. And so I like the fact that, even though he gets put in situations where he could easily pivot to another goal or idea, he stays true to the character that he was just established as. And so it helps the story to kind of grow and develop from those core ideas. Because, the summary read, we were talking about how this is before dogs became man's best friend. And so I like how he's behaving as an animal would in the very beginning, because there is no relationship between humans and canines. So seeing that, what do canines want? They want food. Like that is his main objective. And what do humans want? Well, we're empathetic. We're, trying our best to be caring and loving and supportive, and we have these bonds and connections to each other that we value and all of that stuff. So seeing the contrast between those two was really nice. So I really liked that. And, Amber as a character is just so interesting to me, because right from the very beginning, she comes across as fearless. Like clearly she knew that she was being followed. Like now I'm getting into, so clearly I like the characters too, because like I've gotten off subject, but I just liked that Amber, even though she's a child, because I feel sometimes when people write children don't necessarily have clear motives or objectives. They're just kind of like pieces moved on the board. But I really like that she had her own unique personality, and that she has her own aspirations and wants and things outside of what other people tell her to do, and her age is not a factor. Amber's basically an adult. Like, so amazing job on all of these 3 points. I thought they were super cool. Now, let's get into the next point. So, building up anticipation. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply to what we read, but I thought what would really help to enhance the story, because I was looking at the sheet, and so I said, from your point of view, what do you think your story/comic needs specific help with? And you said, to be honest, we think the comic is heading in a good direction, but would like a critique from an outside source. It would help us to make our story better and entertaining. So specifically based on what you said here, I looked into how to make the story, elevate it to a higher level. And so when we are reading the story, there's a scene that happens where after the incident with this first wolf, we see that the characters are going to continue to look for the wolf that killed their grandmother. So I think it's important during scenes in between to start building anticipation for what's to come. And so a good way to do this is to set your expectations for what the audience needs to know. So, and this will amplify the feelings of anticipation, because the writer, the creator will be telling you, here's what the characters view, how this situation is going to go, and then you can build off of that. So let's talk about the setup. and why this is important. So for Amber as a character, I get that she's fearless. I get that she's a strong character. I get that she is very independent and all of that. But I would like to hear what her expectations of this journey will be at the very beginning. So, and one reason in particular for that is she's carrying around a gun. Now, we don't know how old she is, but clearly she's young. And I'm assuming this is like, it's not modern civilization. That's what I'm assuming. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. And, even if it is or isn't, my issue is going back to the gun thing. Even if she is a good shot or if she's used to carrying around a weapon, there is a level of emotional baggage that comes around with killing something. So there's a difference between shooting a target and shooting a person. Unless, that person has some sort of emotional lack. So it would be nice to set up her expectations for what she thinks killing these wolves will be like. And then, so you could set that up in the beginning and then keep building off of that. So this adds to the suspense of what's going to happen. And so for us as readers, we're invested wondering, hey, is she going to be able to shoot the wolves when, she's surrounded by them? Is she going to be able to pull the trigger? Or will the plan just not go the way she expects it to go at all? So then we get to the next stage after we've established what the character's expectations are. We're going to show how they prepare. And so this could be done a number of ways. It could be done through a flashback. It could be done through like a training montage. It could be done through exposition, something like that. It could be done in present time where we're showing the character overcoming something to prepare. So in this instance, just for example, you could have a flashback of Amber showing that she's a good shot. She's really good at shooting targets. She can shoot the can from 1,000 yards away. She can shoot a nail off of a fence post, and you could just be like, she's such a good shot, blah blah blah, all of this stuff. And so it really sets up that, hey, Amber's a good shot. So when she gets to the point of having to hurt these wolves, she has the skills and the capability of being able to do it. So now it's just, will she be able to do it? And so then we're building on some emotion here too. So with emotion, a lot of times our emotions as humans are not singular in the sense of we don't necessarily feel things just one thing at once. We can feel an arrangement of things. So then this builds to what I was talking about, and this is all example. And so this builds to the point where she's at the point where she has to pull the trigger. And so emotionally, she's angry about having her grandmother being killed by these wolves, but then she's conflicted with being able to pull the trigger. And so it sets up a more emotionally high stakes, because now the readers are like, you're justified, if the readers agree in the way you set it up, you could be like, you're justified, you can pull the trigger, just do it. But then it's like, well, they're just an animal, they're behaving the way a wild animal does, should I kill them? And then she's also young, so it's like the weight of taking a life at an early age. And so it's a lot of conflicting things that are going on at once. And then finally, when the decision is made, either she's forced to or she comes to the conclusion on her own, and she either kills or doesn't kill, it has such a powerful impact to the readers. And so then I think one thing that's important, which you don't always have to do this, is you can show what changed from the expectation. So still keeping with that same example, she set the expectation that killing the wolves would be easy in the very beginning. And then we get to the part where she can't pull the trigger. So now we have a clear contrast, which can develop towards the next scene of her, once she makes that out of that situation, either she pulled the trigger or the wolves were somehow killed or stopped or ran away. Now she has to face the weight of, can she actually continue this journey that you established from episode 1 of avenging her mother? And so it has such a high emotional draw where you're just like, will she, won't she, can she do it? I believe in you. It really helps to add in some extra anticipation, which, like I said, the story so far, I think is great and everything. This is just an example of adding in a little bit more to really add some oomph to those scenes. Let's look at the next slide. Oh, well, since you're actually, no, go back. Since you're actually here, I can ask you, like, does that make sense to an extent? Do you kind of see where I'm coming from on this? I'm not saying that the story doesn't have any anticipation or any tension. I'm just saying, like, it can be elevated. And, you know, of course, if you disagree, you disagree. And if you just want to sit there and think about it and, you know, contemplate it, stew on it, that's also fine. But was what I said clear? I guess that should be the question. Or if you have any questions, that's also an option as well. If you have something you want to say. So I'm going to move forward. Maybe you're typing or maybe you're not, but I'm going to hit the next slide. So, impactful themes. Now, I think your story... Oh, comment. In the first 3 chapters, we wanted to show how overpowered the grandpa was. Okay, that's cool. Cool. I think he comes across as very strong. So I think that you're doing a great job. Like the whole little hunters guild or whatever they are, they come across as like powerful and capable. Like that wolf was just like, I'm dead. So totally get it. All right. So impactful themes. Now this is why I think you have themes already, but I'm like, it would be nice to really have them give like a nice gut punch. So this is, again, going back to what you were talking about with making the story better or more entertaining. So a plot tells what's happening in the story. So you can almost look at plot like an outline or like the bullet points of a story. And then a theme is what's in between. It adds in the why this has to happen in the plot. And so it really adds some extra meaning to the story. And so without the theme, it's just a series of actions. So you're just hitting one bullet point after another, and you're just moving on through the motions. And so it doesn't really explain why these actions are beyond a simple cause and effect. So going back to the example of will she, won't she pull the trigger, like if there's no sort of emotional depth to that scene, then it's kind of just like, okay, she pulled the trigger and we're moving on. She's just a little serial killer. No. It's like we want to add in that these characters are human, that these characters, like there is a reason for this. There's a reason why she feels the way she does. And then the why is important to readers. So themes don't have to be explained to readers, but it's important for us as the creator to understand our own themes so that when moments arise in scenes, we can either weave it in or we can be actively thinking about how can I enhance the theme. So let's keep building on that. Like when the audience is reading, our mind is looking for a meaning. Like we're trying to figure out, why does this matter? What is the importance of this scene? And so we love stories because they provide answers about things like the human condition, and they help us to understand life, ourselves, and each other. So when people are reading and then they are able to connect to a character so easily, a lot of times it's because of the theme of that character. It's how the character, acts within the story, and then the people are like, yeah, you know what? If I was in that situation, I would behave the same way. And so that leads us to what I think, you have a really amazing ability. Like your characters have such strong characterization. Like if you were to include thematic themes within them, like you could really build that into their personality. So like I'm just using this as an example. Your theme could be man versus beast, right? And so the struggle between, intellect and the, what is it called? Like when it's just an instinct. So intellect and instinct. So that could be a big theme within your story, for example, intellect and instinct. And so you have the Amber, the character who is the man who's supposed to be intellectual, but she's really acting off of instinct. And then you could have the wolf who's supposed to be instinct acting intellectual. And so that can really add to the overall thing. One, you're subverting the trope, and then you're adding in powerful themes that make people think like, wait, you know what, I'm actually siding with the wolf. The wolf's logic here makes more sense. Like, he is a beast. What do beasts do? They eat people. Like, and then you're kind of like, well, she's a human. She shouldn't be going around killing every wolf. She should be only killing the wolf that, hurt her mother or grandmother. Like, and so you have a strong, ability to be able to figure out like how to develop these themes even more, because you could have like the wolf saying this in the beginning, and then later on he could be saying the opposite or the same thing for the girl. Like, you can include these themes into their character arcs, and you can really show the audience like an important message that'll speak to them beyond just the entertaining story. And the theme will help it to be entertaining too, because the theme often creates conflict depending on how you write it. All right. So, and if you have questions or you have something to say, or you're like, I don't understand that, just let me know and I will, elaborate on it more, or I will do my best to try and explain it to the best of my ability. Like, I'm not the greatest teacher, but I try to be as logical as I can when I make these things out for y'all. And of course, you can screenshot this, or you could, come back and rewatch what I said later, like if you're just not up to like interacting with it. So we're all good. Next slide. Okay. Research. Like, here is something that I think every creator needs to benefit from and needs to use regularly. Throughout the entire crafting of your story, I think that there should be research going on. And research can come in a number of ways. So it could come from, talking to other people. It could come from TV, books, any sort of media. It could come from, observing people. Like, there's no limit to your research. Like, if you work a day job and you're talking to somebody, you could observe the way they speak, you could observe the way they behave, or even at school. And that could be considered your research. So when we're creating these fantastical worlds, readers to a reasonable degree need to believe what they're reading is truthful. And what I mean by that, it has a logical conclusion. It makes sense. So even if the story is super fantastical, it's, over the top wild, it's weird, like, as long as it makes to a certain extent logical sense, a reader will be able to immerse themselves in the world that you've created. And so that's really crucial for their enjoyment, being able to, as they're reading, not stop and be like, that didn't make sense. Like, it's really important to follow a stream of logic. Even if a character is illogical, characters follow a certain logic. Like, for instance, I'm like, as I was saying this, I thought about the Joker from The Dark Knight. In that series, in that movie, they say like, some men just want to see the world burn. Like, he has no rhyme or reason or logic to him, but that is the logic of the character. He is not reasonable, he's illogical. And so he fits his own narrative of logic. And so when he does things in the story, it makes sense to the audience because he's been established to do those things. Now, the reason I bring this up, so on your sheet, you have that the genre is heartwarming, but on Webtoons, it says it's an action series, which I was kind of confused about. I was like, but why? Like, it's set up so well to be a heartwarming series. Like, I can definitely see that there will be action in it, but I would almost say that it would be closer to like drama than I would say action. That's just my opinion. And so I think it would be really beneficial if you are trying to move towards the heartwarming genre to really build upon stories that evoke strong emotions from a lot of people. And so I selected 3 series for you. Now, let me explain. I selected Red Riding Hood in particular because your story has very clear similarities to it. And so I think it would be really helpful to know the source material really well. Like, even if you watch like a lore video on Red Riding Hood, like, you don't necessarily have to read it. I'm sure you know the story to a reasonable degree. But like, I think it would be really cool to look at the lore of Red Riding Hood, and especially look at the themes of Red Riding Hood, because Red Riding Hood has a lot of themes if you really get deep down into it. Like, you have the theme of not trusting strangers, you have the theme of learning from your mistakes, you have the theme of man, I had another one and it slipped my mind. But you get it. There's more themes in the story than I think a lot of people give it credit to, because it's a children's book for one thing, so a lot of people skim the surface on it. But look at some lore videos for it and really see some of what Red Riding Hood was trying to teach and what it was trying to say. And then, since your story is based on that, you can either use some direct one-for-one story points from Red Riding Hood, or you can subvert those. Like I think you're already going in that direction anyway, with the wolf that's in our story actually becoming the close friend to our Amber. But I think that this would be a good place to start, because I feel like Red Riding Hood could be a nice foundation to draw inspiration from. And I don't think anybody would be able to necessarily tell if you're taking a theme from it one for one, just because themes are universal. So don't be afraid to look at the source material. Next, I picked 2 series. So Violet Evergarden, I am like not super critical when I watch TV or read anything, but I am always open to be emotionally moved by a series. And Violet Evergarden is just one of the series that I've always wanted to, that I've always needed. It's a series that really speaks to a lot of different issues, and it has a lot of different aspects of like developing a heart, which I think at its core is super helpful to humans. Like, when you watch the series, you really get to see how a lot of different people's minds work, and you get to see how the main character grows as she becomes an individual with her own heart. And although she is literally a robot throughout the whole series and displays little emotion, she has some of the most impactful scenes within any story that I've read. So, all right, hold on and drink some water. Ooh, DJ's here. Everyone say hello to DJ. So glad you're on. All right, let me look at some of the comments. Yeah, I think the drama angle is really good, Thea. Yes, we building up to the heartwarming. Okay, I see. So you're kind of like, you're not there with the heartwarming yet. You're building up to it. Okay, that makes sense why it would be in a different genre right now. I wanted drama, but my sister said action because there's action in it. So you might be able to get away with it. But the only thing about it is like, unless people who are used to the Webtoon formula, used to the way Webtoon curates things on there, I think that if they, like for me, if I clicked on this and I was wanting to read something action-packed, I would be wanting to read something like Omniscient Reader, or I'm trying to think of Webtoons that have a lot of action in it. Unordinary. What else has action in it? Like where they fight. It can work to an extent. So I would just say if in 6 months you're not seeing any results from being in the action genre, switch over to another genre. That's the one fun thing about webtoons is you can always change your genre. Yes. Okay, I literally just said that. So me and Thea are on the same page. Yeah, so if it doesn't work, just change it. Just change it. All right, and so then my next suggestion to you in research would be Ranking of Kings. And see, I don't even know, like, I'm assuming you like anime, and that's why I specifically picked anime, because I was like, they probably like anime, they read webtoons. But the reason I suggested Ranking of Kings is because this is one of the few series that within the last 5 years, including Violet Evergarden, every episode of this thing has had me emotional. And from episode 1, there's such strong emotional weight put into the development of these characters. It's just beyond anything. So, whoa! Just look into series specifically that really build on emotion and then develop your story from there. All right. Like, I got off on a little side tangent about Red Riding Hood and Violet, but I mean, it was worth it. Right? All right, so a little Q&A. So, our dear friends over there, our wonderful creators of Wolf's Fable, do y'all have any questions? Oh, and so also chat, if you guys are enjoyed the story, yeah. If you guys enjoyed the webtoon, then please show some love to the creators in the chat. Do the wolf emoji. I think I saw that earlier, which I thought was very appropriate. And the artistic palette emoji. Give them both. Show the writer and the... Okay, yes, no spoilers for Ranking of Kings. It's next level. It's so good. It's so good. If you're not watching Ranking of Kings, we can't be friends. Like, point blank, period. But yes, so wolf emojis and artistic palettes in the chat. Show some love to the wonderful creators who offered up their webtoon for us to learn from, for us to develop our skills, and for me to have a chance to talk about some writing, because I love writing. Yes, we got a double wolf and a double art palette. I am here for that. That is amazing. And so we're just giving these creators a few minutes to ask any questions if they have any. But we can chat for a minute if y'all want to chat. Let's see. Hey, Blue's here. Everybody, Blue made it to the stream. I'm shooketh. Blue, what are you doing here? She'll probably say something like, you didn't remind me that there was a stream today, and I just happened to get on YouTube and I saw it. Okay, Blue. Not like we have a shared Google Calendar or anything. Okay, awesome. I'm so glad that I answered all of your questions. Let's see here. I just want to just look one more time at this to see if there's anything that I wanted to mention before we move on. Nope. Seems like that's it. Awesome. So thank you so much. We are so grateful to you putting your comic up to be critiqued, to allow us all a chance to learn, and then thank you so much for just being a part of our little community. Like, we really appreciate you both. And so everyone who's here, be sure to follow them on Instagram. Give Wolf's Fable all of the likes and comments that it deserves and needs. Oh, you watched Perfect Blue. I've been wanting to watch that for years. Like, From what I understand, it's what Black Swan was based off of, and I've been wanting to watch it. Was it good? Was it really good? Like, I need to know this before moving on. Blue is slacking. I'm glad people are calling her out. Okay, Blue. So since you're here, we've been doing emojis for everybody. So let's all give Blue a crown emoji in the chat if you're grateful that she's here. Hi. So glad you made it. Let's see, Josie? I feel like that name should be familiar to me. Like, I'm just not recognizing your icon. I'm like, I feel like I know this person. I'm so glad. Awesome. Oh my good grief. I want to do a watch along now. Like, we need to do a watch along of Perfect Blue together. Maybe I'll do that on Patreon. I think that would be fun. Ugh. But then that limits it. Could I do a watch along with y'all? I'm like trying to think of a way like we could watch it together. I'm just like, is that even possible? We could probably watch it on Discord. I don't know. If y'all are really interested in us possibly doing a watch along, like, I think that would be so much fun. We could do like I know I'm like supposed to be doing other things, but I feel like it would be fun to do a watch along once a month of like a movie or something where we could like watch it and then critique it or talk about things that we found interesting from a writing perspective and like really develop our skills from that. That could be super fun. I'm gonna think on it some more. I'm not gonna get too wild with it. I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay. So we'll table that. But shout out to our Patreon. So if you want to join our Patreon, you know, it's just $1 and we do fun things on there. We have a live stream this Sunday coming up where we're going to be learning how to color skin tone. So that'll be super fun. So if you want to join, like, we have a really good time. All right, not enough of that. So let's move on. Okay, I feel like I have the ability to do a third one. I know this is now becoming a long stream, but I'm kind of like, I think I have the energy to keep going. Like, let's keep going. Yes, join the Patreon. I didn't shill it this time. Taylor said it in the chat, so I'm down for it. All right, so we have the creator of Tuck and Roll, this is what they put on their sheet to be called, Tuck_Roll Director 240, which I'm just like, so they're the director, like the doctor, but they're the director. That's what I will continue to refer to them as because I thought that was amazing. And that's what I want to call them, so I hope they're okay with it. So we have the director. They were so nice to be able to submit their comic for critique. So I want to ask y'all's opinion on this before we get like really deep into the analysis on this. So this creator does short episodes, like they're super short. Yeah, I figured I should just go ahead and do it. Like, I'm in a really good mood, and I'm kind of like, I don't know how I'll feel going forward. Like, let's say if I postpone it to the following week, I could be low energy that week, and it won't come across as, you know, positive, I think, if I'm not in, like, the best mood, you know? Ooh, so y'all are possibly down to do a little watch-along? Okay, I'm gonna look into it for us, and I think I'm gonna do it on YouTube. But if, like, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna just look into it. Let me stop talking about it because, like, my brain is just like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And so I'm just like, let me table it. We'll come back to it. Yeah, so they have short episodes, and so my only concern about this is if we do read 3 episodes, It's going to be super short. So when we get to the third episode, I just want y'all to let me know, do y'all think I should read like 3 more, or do y'all think I should table it and then just go into the critique? Because really, I read these so that y'all can get a sense of the comic. I've already read it. Like, I've read 40 episodes, I think, so that I could get a decent sense of the comic. But I really want to read them so that they can be showed off, you know? I know. I just don't want to have, like, I don't want to maintain a Discord. Like, if I was to release, let me get on my soapbox for a minute. So if I was to release a public Discord, I would feel obligated to be active on there if people were on it, because I felt like they joined to talk to me. And like, I just don't have the time right now to do that. And I know people will probably be like, well, we don't care. Like, we would just love to be a part of it or whatever. But I'm just like, I don't feel like that adds any benefit to y'all joining, you know? So I might think on it some more and really be like, okay, y'all have worn me down. Let's do a Discord. Maybe I'll do a poll on Insta and decide if I should open up a public Discord for us to chat and stuff. We'll see. Like, maybe I'll just... we're gonna read, okay? Y'all are distracting me. All right. Beep. Episodes of the story. Hello, and welcome to BD. Every Kano Patriots home. Follow Tuck and the gang. Follow Tuck and the gang as they do normal kid stuff. Get into scuffles, fall in love, avoid government conspiracies, and try to survive. You know, the usual. And it updates every Monday. Man, so we had a comic on Monday and Tuesday. Did we have another? What was the other day? Anyway, so that's cool. So be sure to check them out. Make sure to give them love. Follow them on Insta. Follow them on Webtoons. Whatever you want. We're here for it. So here's all their info again. And if you're really interested, you know, just take a screenshot of the page. All right. So, as always, I'm starting off with the things that I loved. So, one of the amazing things about this, which we did not really, y'all only got to see little glimpses of it, is these characters are so well written in the sense of they feel like real people. And I feel like as I was reading through the episodes that their characterization with such a huge cast, each character was very specific in their role, but also they acted outside of the role as well, meaning that, you know, even if they are the happy-go-lucky character, they aren't happy-go-lucky all the time. Like, they're not one-dimensional. And then I also felt like there was a lot of scenes that really show the characters' personalities as you continue to read. And I feel like that's super hard with such a big cast, being able to do that with just a few lines to really show a character's personality. You're like, dang, man, I get you. Like, for instance, we think about the 2 chickens, I want to say, or roosters, how their interaction, you really got a clear idea of their personalities. So, and it's like that for all of the characters. Next is super charming. Like, it's so charming in the sense of, I felt like while I was reading this, these were just friends interacting with each other. Like, I could really feel like the friendship. I could feel that, hey, you know, even within small or large friend groups, there are different dynamics where, like, not everybody is always, you know, happy with certain people, but they put up with them because they're in the friend group. Like, I felt like that was very realistic. And I felt like there's always kind of like a politician in the group that's like smoothing out things and keeping the group together, the real heart of everything. And so I thought that was amazing. Then there's a lot of really subtle moments. Like, if we go back to the conversation between the lizard and I want to say she's a wolf, but I'm not sure, between the lizard and the wolf girl, like, he was throwing some shade, like, hardcore. But it wasn't even really addressed. It was just super subtle. It was like, you know, it was so clear, I don't think you could miss it, but it was also so small that it was just like a little tiny moment flittered in there to like really build up the scene. So I thought that was super good. And even their use of like, we saw the character's eye in the beginning, and that could have been enough to indicate that there was, either they had a disability or they had some sort of issue with the eye, or the eye was special, anything like that. But they went on to emphasize that, and they weaved it into the narrative when he was walking and how he almost walked into the sign, and how he mentioned like it just flowed so well, and it was something that was just like briefly said and addressed, and it just moved on right past it. So I really thought that was nice as well. Like A+ on, like, basically, I feel like I'm talking, all three of these points are related to characterization, but I'm just like A+ all around on everything that was mentioned. So let's see, maybe we should start off by giving the creators some snaps in the chat. What emoji should they have? What emoji should they have? I don't know. What do y'all think is a good emoji to show our appreciation? Let's go with, I don't know. It's so hard. I can't think of an emoji. So one of y'all think of an emoji and then let me know, and then that'll be our emoji to show our appreciation. All right, next slide. Oh, plot and goals. Also, this slide I felt like really popped off. Like I thought it looked so good. So I feel like this is one area that could really help to improve the overall narrative of the story. And so let's, lizard, yes, lizard emoji in the chat, please, to show our appreciation. Okay, so let's go over what they want. So their target audience, again, is anyone. So pretty much, they're just whoever they can build a fan base off of, or, build a story that other people will enjoy, whatever you want to say. So let's look at, I asked them if your inciting incident occurs after episode 3. Please explain why. So it clearly does, as we read to like episode 8 or 9, I can't remember. But it says, when I began working on this almost 5 years ago, I didn't understand the concept of a hook. Now knowing its importance, I have been implementing them on a chapter by chapter basis while attempting to serialize it better. So they identified that in the beginning they did not necessarily have a clear hook or maybe even a clear plot, but they were able to, keep pushing through and making the story. And like, just props off to you for working on a story for 5 years. Like, that's some dedication, because if you go to their page, I think they have like 200+ episodes, and I'm just like, that's some work. So I'm giving you some snaps to you, because man, like, I'm just thinking about myself and how I've like been working on a few projects for years, and I'm just like, they're still not finished. Like one of my novel ideas that I had since like middle school, still not finished. And it could be because the idea is bad, but I just love it so much. But anyway, that's amazing. I'm so glad that your goals are becoming more clear. So here's the issue with this. Whenever readers are coming into the story, they need a reason to stay. They need a reason to know why this story should matter to them, or why this story will be entertaining to them. It helps them to latch on to something to keep them coming back. Now, you could have an interesting hook at the beginning and then they could leave, but the difference is if they leave, they might be interested to come back later if they see that you're still posting. So now here's what I would say if you were to, because I think you could even just throw in some episodes in the beginning to replace, like I think you had the Smack G's announcement up, and then you had another thing up where you could, not saying you should do this, but I'm just saying you could add in a 1 episode plot where it really flushes out where the story is going to go and how it's going to develop. So the next thing that kind of confused me was when I looked at it on Webtoons, it's categorized as a slice of life, but on your thing you have that it's written down as mystery, and then your icon is more, to me, it looks kind of like a mystery. Let me go back so everybody can see it. So this seems like very mysterious, like, and none of the tone of that is conveyed in the beginning. So this is where I think like the plot and the character goals could really help. So those need to be developed. And so the plot and the character goals, they should work together, and this will help to enhance the story. So you could almost even imagine like the character is pushing the plot forward. So whatever your plot is, you want it to align something with the character so that they can move forward. And it could be a broad plot. Like it could be a group of friends on a journey, a group of friends want to go to the mall or something. I don't know. You know, it could be something really broad or really simple, but it's something to interest the readers enough to keep reading. And so early on, the audience should know what the main characters want. Like, outside of the story, like they could have a conversation about something like, oh, I want to go to university, like I'm working so hard to go to university. Since this is like a slice of life or whatever, you know, that could be their main goal at the time, but it should be something interesting for the audience. So building to our next point, a character needs a clear goal in order to keep them driven and help move the story forward. So this is what we were talking about earlier, where the character is essentially pushing that plot forward. And so with their clear goal, this is going to lead them into whatever situation you want. So even in mystery stories or whatnot, characters a lot of times have their own priorities, their own objectives, and whatever they're doing often leads them into situations where it's like, oh man, they about to die. And so, you know, then their character goals could change. Like their goal could become survival. Like, forget college, I'm just trying to survive the night. Like, that's my main goal. And so it helps the story for things to seem a little more natural as things develop. Now, a side note about this, you can have a character that has various ambitions, but they always have a primary goal. Like a character could have a bunch of things that they want, they have a bunch of things that they need, but there's one thing that stands out above the others, and that should be clear to the audience at least. Like it doesn't even necessarily have to be clear to the character, but for you as a writer and for the audience, it needs to be clear enough to us that we all know what's going on. So once those character goals are established, again, they're just going to push that little plot on along. So it's just going to keep on pushing and keep moving it forward. And this will just help the beginning, because the first 20, 30 episodes, I feel like, are just characters hanging out, which is fun. It's super fun or whatever. But if you're trying to appeal to an audience, it's not necessarily a story, I think, that has mass appeal. Like this, I would say if you wanted to go that route, it should be marketed to a very specific group of people. And so like you could think of, like I had an idea of a story just now, and it flittered away. That's like very specific and is targeted towards a specific group, but it left. Maybe it'll come back to me. Some projects need to lay down a while. I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe you can elaborate on that in the chat for us. But yes, so just pick something, like something for the characters to keep working towards. And then like even with all of these, small moments that you may want to include, at least the audience will be like, okay, well, we're developing to whatever. And then that'll be helpful. Oh, a good example of this. Read Everything is Fine. One, it's amazing. Two, it's in the same genre in the sense of it is a little bit of mystery, a little bit of thriller, a little bit of slice of life. But the way it's crafted really sets up some like oddities that make all of the scenes suspenseful and all of the audience interested in how the story is going to develop. Because Everything is Fine is a bunch of little moments that are odd. And it fits so well into that horror genre in a sense that I think it would be worth looking into to develop your skills of how you want your mystery to play out. Because you mentioned in your answers to me that you were thinking like this could be kind of a Scooby-Doo, so like a gang solving mysteries, which makes me think of what's that girl's name who would solve mysteries? She was super popular back in like the 80s and the early 90s. Nancy Drew. So you can think of like Nancy Drew, how Nancy Drew, although she was just a child, all of the books had objectives in it. And so it helped it to push the story along, even though Nancy was just like a little kiddo living her life. Next, let's talk about tone. So the reason I included tone. Oh, yes. Yeah, I do have a lot of unfinished projects. It is nice to come back to them every once in a while. Although, I don't know. I feel like this is on a little side tangent, and then I'll get back to talking about the story, or talking about the critique here for the story. I think for that story in particular from middle school, it's probably just the connection that I have to it. It was one of the first things that I decided I was going to write. And so I just feel like I need to complete it because it was one of the first projects that really impacted me as a novelist or a writer. Like it's one of the things that I was like, oh, this is so much fun and I want to keep developing it. So I think that's why I want it, but I don't think with the way that I formatted things in my younger brain that it would make any sense. Like I had to scrap everything and just build the core concept. Maybe one day we'll read some of that on a stream. Maybe y'all would find that entertaining. Okay, so getting back to this. If y'all want that to happen, Salsa Girl dances in the chat. Okay, so getting back to this, the reason I specifically picked tone for your story was, so in your, from your point of view, what do you think your story / comic needs specific help with? And you said most of the critique you have gotten so far has been art-based, not much on story, but I do know it starts off a bit slow. Some pacing help would be appreciated. Thanks so much in advance for the opportunity. Of course, we love to help here. So with the fact that this story is in the mystery genre and you're building it from a very slow point, I think it's important for you to focus on your tone. Everything that you're developing in the story should have a hint of mystery to it, and it needs to be emphasized, because I think there are moments that emphasize that things are happening, but they need to be emphasized even more so that the audience can pick up on it and it can have a better appeal. Like just doing a few simple things will help to establish a stronger tone for the story. So your opening scene, like starting from the episode that we read at, there was kind of like a flashback episode before that, but starting from the episode we read at, the tone is kind of neutral to me. Like nothing was overly strong and nothing was overly weak in a sense. So I'm like, there could be more emphasis put on having a darker tone or a more mysterious tone at the beginning, just to really engage the reader and let them know, hey, this is going to be a mystery. This is going to be, something that we're going to build our way up to. There's a lot of history here, a lot of depth, and there's a lot of things going on that we can't talk about yet, but it's coming. So these are just a few suggestions. There's so many things that you can implement that will help to improve the tone. So I'd say start by intensifying these concepts, sounds. So that's like your onomatopoeia, the whoosh, the click, those sort of things. Like intensify those, like things shattering, like whatever you can do. I think that would really help. Like if there's eerie sounds going on in the house or something that like people ignore, or like if you have like let's say for instance there's a scene where all of the characters that live in Tuck's house are sitting at the dining room table, and then you have established that they're the only people in the house, but then in a scene there's footsteps, like it's like footsteps are walking upstairs and they all look upstairs and then they ignore it. Like that would be really interesting and set a really strong tone for something else that's going on. Next, colors. So you can really intensify any scene with colors by like smearing over the entire thing with like a muted tone, or like enhancing black and white. And so that contrast really helped to make that scene pop more and show how important it was. And so with that being the case, just keep that in mind as you move forward. Like, how can I use colors to convey a stronger tone, to convey the mystery of what's happening in this series, or to convey elements that characters are hiding, or that there's a secret here, or something like that. Next, expressions, which again, all of your characters have strong, personalities and whatnot, but I do think that it's important to keep in mind that expressions, silent expressions, can help to really convey a tone. And sometimes characters don't need to respond to things that have been asked of them. Like, even if a character directly asks them something, sometimes a look and silence is way stronger. Like, let's say, for instance, you're out shopping with your parents or something, and then you come across somebody that your parent dislikes, and then they give you a look like, don't say anything about what I said about them. Like, that's a tone. Like, they're conveying something to you without saying anything through expression. Or have you ever been hanging out with people and like you say something and they both look at each other and then they don't say anything? That can be really impactful and, help not only enhance the scene, but pique the audience's interest and, have them building an investment in your series. Now, this gets us to the impactful scene part. Ha! Jess wants to see my childhood novel. I don't know, Jess. I don't think anyone else is interested, so we might pass that one up. Okay, so with slower stories, and this was something that, I wanted to address, because I think like people feel that slow stories are all bad, but that's not the case. What doesn't help a slow story is if it's the same type of slowness throughout the whole thing. So this is where I think that understanding active and reflective scenes will really help you as a creator when you're crafting your slow scenes, because a slow scene can be active and it can be reflective, and so you can switch between the two, and then this information will help to build a more ebb and flow to the story, even though nothing's necessarily actiony is happening. And like a good example of this is in romance stories. Like, you have scenes where characters will be talking about things, then you see the character actively doing something. So the talking scene would be the reflective scene, and then the scene where they're out doing whatever they needed to do, that would be the active scene. So that leads us into the definitions, which we just kind of went over, but an active scene is where something important happens, an action that moves the story forward. So remember, we were talking about goals and how characters will push the plot forward. So this would be the character would actively do something to move the story forward. So this doesn't have to be an over-the-top dramatic like car chase. This could be something as simple as the character making it out of their house and walking down the street, or the character, like if we go back to our example of the footsteps, they hear the footsteps upstairs, they ignored it, but then they get upstairs and they're like, I'm going to check the attic. That is an active scene. That's building suspense, and you're like, oh, what's in the attic? We know something's up there. Why is everybody ignoring it? So then we get to the reflective scenes. Those are where the character ponders on their situation, informs other characters of their problems, or they fill the readers in with backstory or exposition. So you can think of this as sort of anything that's not active, where the character isn't doing anything. This is like just a little brief pause for the character to reflect on what they're either about to do or what they just did. And so we're getting that ebb and flow going. Like, active, reactive, active, reactive, active, active, reactive, or reflective. I keep saying reactive, reflective. And so we're getting that nice ebb and flow. And you can have, a scene where it's active, active, and it's repeating, but you still want to throw in that reflectiveness to break up that flow here and there. Now, a big issue I think that's going on in your story is the characters are just doing ordinary activities, and so it's not really building on anything. It's kind of like if somebody just told you every minute detail of what they did throughout the day, like hour by hour. They're like, oh, I went to work, and then when I got to work, I had a pretzel, but then the pretzel wasn't, that good because it wasn't hot, so I went to the microwave, and I put the pretzel in the microwave, and then Jana came in, and she was telling me about how her boyfriend's cheating on her, and I didn't care because I'm single, and then that made me open up Tinder, and so then I decided, I'm going to go on a date when I get off work, and then I got on Tinder, and so it was like boring, that nobody cares. Like, if anything, they would only care if you went on the date that when you looked up on Tinder, but then you're like, no, I went home and I, got a glass of wine and got in the tub and took a soak. Like, that would be more engaging and more helpful, or not more engaging, but those things are not engaging and not helpful, having that back to back to back. Like, again, when we talked earlier in the stream, it's important for scenes to have a specific reason for existing. Like, why does this scene exist and what is it doing for the story? Which a scene doesn't necessarily need to push the story forward like we established here with the active or the reflective, but it does need to serve a purpose of why it's in the story. And so that's where we get back to the reflective, where it's pondering the situation, it's talking to other characters about the problem, its backstory, its exposition to help enhance those active scenes. And they kind of work in tandem. They just keep building off of each other. So now, that was pretty much it. We've made it to the Q&A section. I don't know if they're here. Are you here? The director, is the director here? We should have done a director's chair. That would have been dope. Is there a director's chair emoji? Like, that's what we should have done. I'm cracking up at myself. Oh, man. I started rewatching Doctor Who, and I don't know how I feel about that show. I just don't know. So, did you have any questions if you're here? I don't think I saw you, but I'm just trying to make sure that we don't miss you if you did have any questions. So again, please, support the creator. I'm sure they would love, the well wishes and just showing them some love, showing them some support on their comic or on their social media. And I'm sure they are, just like anybody, trying to improve their story the best that they can. And so sometimes one of the best ways to help someone improve is to just give them some positive reinforcement. Let them know that what they're doing isn't going unnoticed and that, we're all trying to improve together. So, yes! Okay, so let's do, to show our appreciation, let's do the little, I don't know what it's called, but the little film snap thing where they're like action and they clap it. So to show our appreciation, use that sign in the chat. All right, so I think after this, we are getting into our announcements. Yes! So, announcements. The 5th writing critique stream will be April 22nd. So, that's about 2 months from now. As y'all know, I cannot do these streams every month. They take a lot of planning and a lot of time. And I try to put in a lot of care. And I try to really help the creator improve their skills. Not just like, critique them to oblivion, but it takes a lot of time to put thoughts into a form that will be respectful and really helpful to them. A clapboard, yes! The clapboard was so grateful to have Thea here and all of her knowledge. I really appreciate. Snaps for Thea. Thea. Man, I can't talk. All right, we have reached the Ask Me Anything section. But as you know, that don't mean I'm gonna answer it. So you're free to ask it, but I may not answer. And this means that everyone who's here in chat, if you have questions about your story questions, if you want just like a shout out, you could do that as well. Whatever you want. It is what it is. So if nobody has any questions, we'll move on. Did I watch the new Grey's episode today? So no. I have not watched any of Grey's Anatomy this season because I was watching on Netflix. Therefore, I just haven't developed it. Like I just haven't picked it up. Like it has not been on my mind. I didn't even know there was a new season going on. Like I'm very interested to see where Nico's journey goes. Like I don't care about him and Smith, but I'm here for Nico. Like I want him to succeed. I don't care about Meredith. Like Christina's not on the show anymore. I don't care about her. Like without Christina on, I just don't care about Grey's Anatomy. All right, what is my favorite food? Okay, so my favorite food is all sweets. So I don't know if you mean outside of sweets, but if I had to pick a favorite food that included sweets, it would be cheesecake. Any type of cheesecake. Ellen does care about Meredith. Who? Okay. Do you have a preferred genre of comics you like or whatever? So my preferred... Okay. My favorite genre probably would be something that's really heartwarming, but I feel like that's hard to come across because not everything moves everybody. And sometimes after you've read something once, it's kind of just like if you read another heartwarming story that's similar, it has to be done in a very specific way to enjoy. Now, other than that, I would say I love me some medieval fantasy. So, we could think The Wheel of Time, Game of Thrones, anything that's within that spectrum. I like that. Like, I like the realistic aspects combined with the fantastical. But if you're asking what type of writing I like to do, that's a different question. Did you recently watch Netflix Cuphead show? No, is it good? Should I be watching it? Like, should I be watching it? Because I'll watch it. I mean, if you want to talk to me about it, then I'll definitely watch it. Let me see. I feel like I recognize your name, but I'm just not... I'm not placing you on Instagram. Like, we gotta chat on Instagram more so I can recognize your name. Please DM me, Josie. Ooh, are you a cheesecake lover? So let me tell you, my favorite cheesecake that I've ever had was a red velvet cheesecake. It was so good. And then I know this, I have this friend. He's like a family friend, and his wife made us a cheesecake from scratch. It was the best cheesecake of my life, and it was plain. Like, I'm the type of person that loves toppings, like, loves sauce, I like things to be extra. And that cheesecake, changed my whole perception of things that are plain. I was just like, this cheesecake is doing it right. Okay, I think that's it for the Ask Me Anything section. So if another question pops up, I'll answer it. But if not, then let's move forward to shout outs. So if you do have a shout out that you want, like just type it in the chat. I will shout you out personally. I went ahead and selected some people I thought that really deserved some shout outs and were worth checking out. Other Webtoon creators, which I'm so happy that some of y'all are actually here. Oh my good grief. It like blows my mind that some of y'all were here. So shout out to Light Within Shadow. They are here with us right now in chat. And so I just want to say thank you so much for the support. I cannot wait for your series to reboot, for it to relaunch, and I will definitely be consuming it like the day it comes out. All right, let's see some more chat stuff. I met a red velvet cake that had a cheesecake layer in the middle. It was very good. Jess, we need to talk like ASAP immediately. Like I need that recipe. I need it in my life. Like we need to become friends ASAP. Will you be on the New York Comic Con? No, so I do not live anywhere close to New York, but I do want to go one year. Or do you live in New York? Because I'll need somebody to show me around when I get there. Plain is great. I love turtle cheesecake. I think that's what it's called. Yes, so turtle cheesecake is the one with like the caramel sauce, and I think it has like chocolate chips and nuts on it. And it's on top of plain cheesecake. It is so good. So good. So good. Yeah. Oh! Okay, I know exactly who you are. So huge shout out to Ravens and Monsters. They are amazing. They're on Insta. We did actually in the last rating critique, they were the one who had the webtoon that was inspired by Lovecraft, I think. Was it Lovecraft? No, it had a Lovecraft monster in it. It was inspired by, what are their names? They're two, Edgar Allan Poe and is another famous writer. Ugh, my mind is going blank. But their comic is so good. Check them out. Give them some love. I have homemade pumpkin pie cheesecake, and that stuff is awesome. Okay, another friend. All right, we're starting a cheesecake squad when I get off of stream today. Like all of these recipes, I love pumpkin. I would definitely be willing to try that. Yes, we all can't wait for the reboot. Yes, yes. Oh, also, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Nikyu? They're the creator of Accidentally Orc. So, you know, everybody show them some love. Like, their series needs some love. Oh, does your sister, like, make cheesecake? Well, I do plan on going to New York in the future. And if I ever go, you know, relatively soon, I will hit you up and be like, I want cheesecake. So, you know, here's all of the other creators. They all deserve some love. Raptor Palace, they were here earlier, but there's a time zone difference, so I assume that they couldn't stay on for the whole stream. Today's stream was really long too, so there's that. But they are so amazing, and we can't wait to see how their story develops. I'm just trying to see, was anybody else on today so I can give a specific shout out to? So I'll just shout out the other ones as well, just to make it fair. So Project Dogma, Liv has always been a huge supporter of ours. She's so nice and amazing. Give her a follow on Insta. Beneath the Camphor Tree, they're super fun, and they're actually another YouTuber, so be sure to check out their YouTube. They go, I think it's Funky Feet Art on YouTube as well. But check them out. They're a webtoon, like they post webtoon related content that for new creators and everything. They're super cool. And then we have Moonrose Academy. So if y'all don't know Sammy is like so awesome, and he deserves so much love. His series, I think he's relaunching it, and it's gonna be out soon. So, all right, before we wrap things up, let's see if there was anything else. I just asked, nope, I read that. Yeah, she does, but we're from Germany, so it'd be hard to cool it. Oh, one day. Okay, So just a few little things before everything wraps up. Thank you to our patrons. Y'all know who you are. Taylor, Diana, Leah. Y'all all have my heart. And, you know, if you do really want to support us and keep, you know, our spirits motivated and up, just consider giving us, you know, some support on Patreon. We go as low as $1, and then you get access to a lot of cool things, even the monthly live streams that we do where we're learning how to color this month, color skin tone to be specific. All right, so thank y'all so much for joining. I really appreciate all of the support. I cannot believe y'all were here for over 3 hours. Like, that's insane, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it. And I'm going to keep working on my voices so that I can keep developing my voice acting career. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. You know, be sure to give the video a like and a comment maybe, and I will catch you all in the next video.